material forms of love, like
Light,
peace, prosperity, and abundance. And I pray that the messages that come through are ultimately clear and concise and help you on your path to your highest vibrational good. So I am ready to go when you are, Liddell.
Okay, cool. So shall I go first or you go first?
You go first.
Okay,
Absolutely.
cool. So let's talk about Aries. Yeah. So the card that we have for Aries. Oh wow. Okay. So this card says pyramids and Thisbe, and the theme is called love.
Wow.
So this card for So when I designed this card, I was actually, because the story of pyramids and Thisbe was about how it's a little bit like Romeo and Juliet, right? I mean, it was actually the original stories, right? And so this card is all talking about understanding what love is to us and understand what we're willing to give and what we're willing to receive when it comes to love. Because I do believe that love means different things for different people. And sometimes we're also having different expectations about what love is, and when other people interact with us, whether we deem that as love or not. And so I think this is a big theme for Aries people at this moment. Yeah.
That's such a powerful realization and a really, really, really wonderful insight, especially because this eclipse, certainly if we're looking at this from the ascendant sign, this eclipse is happening in the 7th house for Aries people, right? In your relationship sector. So really awesome stuff. Okay. So on the tarot side of things, you have the Queen of Pentacles, which is really, in a lot of ways, it's about self-care. It really is about nourishing and nurturing the self on the practical level, but also understanding how to really increase the yield of whatever you're getting. So what this boils down to for me is like the quality of your love, the quality and the practical application of how you're experiencing that. Is it building you up? Is it tearing you down? And what is it trying to reveal to you? I really like what you said as well about the Romeo and Juliet part of it. If Aries, if you are in a relationship at the moment and it is challenging, this eclipse is really asking you, is it sort of now or never, right? It's time to put up or shut up. It's time to make it work or get out. I don't really think that there's going to be any in-betweens. And given the fact that you are also a cardinal sign, we'll see how it works out. But that's what the eclipse has in store for you, Aries.
Yeah.
Taurus.
All right, Taurus. Interesting. So we got this female figure from Greek mythology, and her name is Arachne, and the keyword is arrogance. Yeah. So usually this is how I see this card. Yeah. I mean, when we look at Arachne in the mythology, basically it was about her challenging the goddess of wisdom, Athena. She said she could weave things better, basically in plain terms. Yeah. And Athena said, no. So let's see who can do this better, right? And eventually she was punished by Athena and she was turned into a spider. And that's why, right? Arachne, the name.
Yeah.
To me, Arachne is about how we balance the so-called our inner talent versus our attitude. Because Arachne was not arrogant in a way that she was, let's say, really stupid or useless, but she was arrogant. She was actually talented, and she won a lot of accolade, and she was respected, by all the people living in her village. So she was good. But the problem about her was that even though she was extremely talented, she didn't really have the right attitude when it comes to dealing with the people around her. So it's a little bit like, it's such a shame, right? I mean, because she has got what it takes to be successful, but she also ended her future because of that. And so I do feel that probably Arachne, this card for Taurus people, because Taurus is about talent, Taurus is about our inner value, our talent, right? So this is saying that, okay, continue to nurture our inner talent and notice your inner talent, but also notice how you want to express them.
Yeah, I love that. That's so interesting as well, because for Taurus, this eclipse falls in your 6th house, which is your daily grind, right? Your habits, your rituals, your routines. And one of the ways that, especially with the card that you pulled, it's almost like saying, are you just going through the motions or are you actually using your skills? Right? I love that. For this, Taurus, you have the Hermit card. One of the things that I love about this card is, aside from all of its other meanings, is it kind of suggests that we strip it back tape it back to basics and just work with what you have.
Yeah.
So this eclipse is effectively trying to show you where maybe you need to get out of your own way, as Latau said, but also where maybe you are just coasting it versus actually leaning into it. So what I will say to you is, whatever results you're having at the moment or not having at the moment as a Taurus, the question really becomes, are you really doing the thing, or are you playing at doing the thing? All right. So nice, interesting. Lots of Taurus out there are going to be really unhappy with us today.
Oh, okay.
Gemini.
Okay. Gemini, we have got, oh, very good. Okay. So this mythological figure's name is Althea, and her keyword is protection.
Oh wow, nice.
I like this card a lot because Althea is a very protective mother, yeah, in Greek mythology. And so the story you can see on the card, she's trying to burn the wood. Of course, this is more toward the end of the story when she was very disheartened by her son's behavior. Her son, I think her son's name is Meleager, and he fell in love with a woman called Atalanta. And and they were trying to fight over the Caledonian boar, yeah, boar hunting. But either way, Althea is talking about that kind of motherly love, that kind of protective energy. Usually, I see this as a good sign. It's telling us that whatever you are going through, you are being protected and guided, right? So release our inner fear. If this is about an actual mother, if you're really a mother and you're wondering about your relationship with your child, sometimes this card tells you that your intention could be amazing. You want to protect them, you want to love them, but also balance the energy, making sure that we're not smothering them at the same time. Yeah.
Love that. Some really, really good points. And it's so interesting as well. Like, this is one of the things that I love about tarot and astrology and oracle cards, because this eclipse for Gemini is falling in your fifth house. Your fifth house is about children. It's about your, right? So I love the way that this is all sort of lining up. It's so, so cool.
Yeah.
All right. So the card that you have for the page is the Page of Swords for Gemini, which kind of makes a lot of sense, especially with the card that you pulled and the messages that you've given us, right? There are times where the younger people, maybe they're flexing the muscle of their independence for the first time, or starting to figure out sort of, well, actually, I like this and I want to do that, right? And if you're finding, as you say, right, that your relationship with your child is a bit strained, or maybe even your personal style of parenting is coming into some sort of conflict, it's not necessarily to say that you're a bad parent or anything like that. It's just that there are some things that need to be adjusted. Yours is the sign of communication. So if you're a Gemini, this sign is really trying to show you how you can find better ways to communicate with your young ones. If you're not a parent, this is probably about some sort of project or creative endeavor of yours. And the Page of Swords can also show up as paperwork, documents, or sort of even contractual agreements that need to really be looked at, or sort of not second guessed, but sort of reconsidered in some way. All right, so Cancer.
Oh, card for Cancer is Theseus. Love this one.
Ooh, nice.
Theseus, leadership. Okay. Oh, this is a very good for us, right? Cancer Sun, Cancer Moon. I mean, yeah. But
I love it.
But honestly, like, we just shuffle the cards, right? So I don't know which card would show up. Yeah, but I mean, I love this. Yeah. You're very good. Yeah. Theseus is a very famous mythological figure. He was a king of Athens, and he was very famous in the story Minotaur, right? The labyrinth. He descended into the labyrinth and to kill the Minotaur, to save Athens youngsters, because every year people in Athens, they had to send 10 boys and 10 girls to a labyrinth, right, to feed the Minotaur. So the story of Theseus is all about that inner warrior, let's say, because this card I associate Theseus with Aries energy. So he's all about leadership, courage, action, motivation. Yeah. So this is for Cancer.
Nice. Yeah, good for the Cancer people among us.
Yeah.
And also worth mentioning, Theseus was played by Henry Cavill in Immortals.
Yes.
Putting that out there.
Yes. It's actually okay.
Write that down. So yeah, excellent. Really love that. And so for Cancers, this is falling in your fourth house of home, family, property, real estate. But what I really loved about what you said about finding that courage and that leadership from the internal, all of those things effectively come from the inner depths of who you are. And a fourth house eclipse, yes, it's about home and family and all those things Cancerian. So this will be doubly important on those levels for a lot of Cancer people.
Yeah, yeah.
But really, your fourth house is about your deep emotional self. It's where we draw the deepest sense of our strength from.
Yeah.
And so that's really wonderful, to have that
Mm.
card. It means that you've got leadership sort of waking up for you. You're stepping
Yeah,
out into the world. And what's
yeah.
even more interesting is your axis of eclipses is fourth house, 10th house. So
Mm.
you're having this massive expansion in the career, and you're also finding that footing on the inside to say, okay, this is going to be the springboard, right? This is what
Yeah.
I'm going to kick off of in order to go for that career stuff. Love
Absolutely, yeah.
it.
Because for me, I think Cancer is also about the fourth house. Apart from being our home, I think it's also just about our comfort zone. Because it's the lowest part of the chart, right? This is where we have been. Being lazy or just feeling this is a place where we're secure, right? And the leadership, I think this card tells us that because the full moon is there, so something to reflect on our comfort zone. So it's a little bit like what you said, fourth house, 10th house, that opposition are reflecting and the duality there. Yeah.
Love that. Love that. All right. So the card that you got for Cancers is the Five of Pentacles. So I know everyone's going to be like, oh my God, don't freak out, right? Don't freak out. Aside from all of its other meanings, this card, certainly in the context of the eclipse, you are being asked to release a way of doing something that has worked up until now, but will not work any further. Another message about this card is it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to reach out. It's all right to look around you and see what other resources are available to you besides the ones that are comfortable. So, really excellent. Thank you so
Mm.
much for that, Latal. All
Awesome.
right,
All right.
Leo.
Leo. Oh, okay. So the figure is called Deianira, and her keyword is insecurity. Not a lot of people know about this figure. Yeah. So Deianira was the final. She was the third wife of Hercules. Actually, I think she was either she was a nymph or she was a muse or something. Yeah. But the interesting story was that when she was with Hercules, she was extremely insecure and she was constantly worried that Hercules would cheat on her and would abandon her. And there was one day she was crossing a river and and a centaur basically told her that, you pour this medicine, yeah, whatever it is, onto Hercules his lion jacket, yeah, the hat, yeah, you pour that on top of that and he will fall in love with you forever. He will never abandon you. And because she was so insecure, so she said, okay, I'll do that so that I can keep him forever. So she poured the potion onto Hercules' clothes, but actually it was poison. And that's how Hercules actually died because he was
Wow.
burned by that. And of course, Deianira at the end, she felt very guilty and she hanged herself. So on the surface, the mythological story was very dramatic, yeah. But deep down, this is talking about our own sense of insecurity, what we feel that somehow, I'm afraid of, of my future because I don't have a guarantee, and I need to have something to hold on to, that kind of a little bit shaky energy. This is how I see this card. Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so Latal just casually aired my business there. I'm a Leo ascendant, so
Yeah, yeah.
there's some really, really interesting points in there that I can
Mm,
definitely identify with for things that I'm trying to build or to do at the moment.
mm, mm,
So that's really, really interesting.
mm,
Now, obviously, if you are a Leo ascendant, this eclipse is hitting in your third house. So aside from everything else that's on the ground, the third house is your mind. It's about how you think. And if you've been with me long enough, you will have heard me say fear is as the film Dune says, right? Fear is all in here. right? And it will ruin so many things. And insecurity stems from fear, right?
Mm.
That's where it comes from. And they kind of feed into each other.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
really, this eclipse could be showing you where the relationship with your mind
Yeah.
actually needs to shift or to change in some regard. Your card is the Ace of
It's a
Swords. You
sword.
literally cannot make it up, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, and what is this card, right? Aside from everything else, this is the swift decision that you make, right? It's the cutting away of the dead wood. It is the sharp sword of truth. It is also the piercing thought of the mind.
Mm.
And so, if we take all of the siblings and local areas and all of that stuff out of it, and it could be that, right? That's very possible. You might be breaking away from your local neighborhood. You might
Mm.
be
Yeah,
changing or shifting a relationship with a sibling.
yeah.
That's all possible. But with the insecurity card and the Ace
Mm.
of Swords, that really
Yeah.
speaks to me about the relationship that we have in here
Here,
with
yeah. Mm.
ourselves, your self talk, the thoughts and the decisions that you make and where you decide to take them.
Yeah.
When you make those decisions that you have to make from a place of strength and clarity, as
Mm.
opposed to fear and insecurity, you're
Yeah.
going to be heading in the right direction.
Yeah, and I think from the mythological story, we can also tell that Deianira, she was triggered. Her insecurity was actually really triggered by a centaur. And in Greek mythology, I mean, of course, Chiron was a very famous centaur, but he was a very different centaur. He was very wise and civilized, and intelligent. He was an astrologist and everything. But centaur as a tribe, yeah, it was actually considered very wild, and they were not actually very civilized. Yeah, most centaurs in ancient Greek mythology, they were very, they were brutal. They were like, very animalistic, right? And so
Yeah,
we can also see that what triggers our insecurity is that inner wild centaur, right? So this
yeah,
the thing that now we can see on the chart, right? That the moon and centaur kind of like opposing each other. Yeah. And so,
absolutely.
and I do think that centaur in us a little bit like the part that is sort of like, giving us that headache and feeding us the fear, right? And the insecurity that we have. Yeah.
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 Thank you so much for mentioning that. And the reason I pulled the chart up for everybody
Mm.
is so that you can see Chiron is obviously in the sign of Aries at the moment.
Yeah.
It's okay, it's a very wide orb, but it's there, it's
There.
having an
Yeah.
effect. And
Mm.
for a Leo person, that's happening in your ninth house, which is your belief system.
Yeah.
That's what's informing these thoughts that are potentially not sort of doing you any good at this moment in time.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay,
Mm.
Virgo.
Virgo. Okay. Virgo energy. We have got Sisyphus burden. Oh, I can really relate to this. I'm a Virgo ascendant, so
Oh, wow.
what the hell? Okay.
That explains so much.
So much, yeah. So Sisyphus was actually an evil king, yeah, from an ancient Greek mythology. He was punished by Zeus because of his evil deeds, yeah. And so the story was that Zeus said you need to roll the rock all the way to uphill, yeah, and when you finish, you're done. Okay, you just do that, right? So he was like, okay, fine, that's easy. I'll just do that, right? So he rolled the rock all the way up, but the rock keeps rolling down. So the rock would not stay uphill. So he had to do it again and again and again. It's a perpetual motion for him. And that's why the keyword, I've put the keyword there, which is called the burden. I really feel that as a human being, we're all very resilient in certain way. I don't think as human being, we're all just very fragile. But I think what really makes us feel, let's say, desperate is that suffering never ends. So it's almost like we are being stuck in a rut and we keep doing the same thing and dealing with the same issue. And sometimes this card reminds me of Nine of Wands. It's almost like I'm tired of not being heard, that energy, right? So I think maybe for Virgo people, this is time for us to release some mental burdens and also understand that I think this also has a lot to do with our boundaries and what is no longer our responsibility and what we need to release. Yeah, draw the line there.
Yeah, I love that. And actually, it kind of makes a lot of sense in one way because the this eclipse for a Virgo person or Virgo ascendant or even Virgo moon is happening in that second house, right?
Mm,
So usually we say yes, this is about our money, our finances, etc. But actually, your
mm,
second house is your values as well, right? Your
mm,
deep value
yeah,
system, and
yeah.
it's also about your self-worth and self-esteem.
Mm,
And if
mm,
you're carrying a whole bunch of baggage, you're not able to really see yourself as the fully glorious being that you are,
yeah.
and that sort of stops you being able to manifest or to create on a material level,
Yeah.
especially what you really desire. If you've
Mm,
been with me long enough here in the Radiant Nation, one of the things I always say is how much money you are able to earn, the level of security, materialistically speaking, that you're able to generate is
mm,
directly linked to how you view, value, and see yourself. And
mm,
that's a
mm,
really important point, right? And
mm, mm,
sometimes
mm.
releasing those burdens is a really important point.
Yeah. And I think
Um,
this could even be about, right, literally a psychological burden about our finance, right? Since the full moon is in the second house, yeah, for Virgo people.
yeah,
Yeah. Mm,
absolutely, absolutely. For this, you have the Knight of Wands.
mm,
This is so interesting because one of the things that I was literally just about to say, aside from all of its other meanings, the Knight of Wands can represent where we're breaking away from the yoke of the family, what we have been, who we have been attached to, who we are born to. And a lot of, and this is true for all of us, a lot of our money stories come from our parents and our grandparents, right? Because they're handed down.
yeah.
We've all heard it. Money doesn't grow on trees. It's hard to come by. You can't have this because, we can't afford it, all of that stuff. And when those things are kind of, put on you, they become a burden. And
Mm,
it takes a while for us to really work that stuff out and say, okay, well, that was your experience and your experience and your um, understanding,
mm,
and thank you for that. It
mm,
made me sensible, but
mm.
it's not my reality anymore. And
Yeah, yeah.
so with this Knight of Wands, you are breaking out of the stories that
Stories, yeah.
your parents or your heritage have told you about finances,
Mm,
about resources. And really, I think this is going to show you, because the Knight of Wands has something to prove,
mm,
right? It's an
mm,
energy of I'm
mm,
going to show you, right? I'm
mm,
going to prove it. And so this eclipse, actually, for the Virgo people, I think will be able to snap you out of that and say, okay, you know what? This is a story that came from my heritage, and I'm not going to perpetuate it anymore.
yeah.
So I'm kind of here for that. I think Virgo,
Interesting, yeah.
you're going to be good.
Good, good. That's good to know that. Yeah.
All right.
All
So
right.
Libra, the big one, your
Libra,
turn.
yeah. Okay. Wow. Okay. You literally you can't make this stuff up. Yeah. Orpheus. Oops. Orpheus healing.
Nice.
So this is
Yeah.
about
Wow.
ourselves, right? Like what you mentioned earlier. Well, because we're having the full moon in Libra, and so this is it for Libra people. This is happening in their first house. And I think Orpheus, the key word, of course, is about healing. And I always find this word very, very big. Everyone talks about healing. Everyone talks about, oh, I'm, self-love and healing and all that. But at the end of the day, I don't really think we're really doing it, even though we think we're doing a lot of the healing work. One of the interesting thing about Orpheus' story was that he was trying to save his dead wife from the underworld. So he descended into the underworld, and he was finally able to convince Hades, the god of the underworld, that he was talented, he was amazing, he was a great musician, and also he deserves, to have his wife back. So Hades said, yes, fine, I'll give your wife back to you, but only under one condition. I'll ask her soul to follow you step by step back to the mortal world, but you cannot look back at her until you reach the sunlight. And so, of course, Orpheus had to walk, right, alone in the darkness, in the underworld, step by step, all the way up. He couldn't hear anything behind him. And he started to grow suspicious. He was thinking, I don't know if my wife is behind me because I can't hear anything. It was just dead silent. And sadly, he was just one step away from the sunlight. He couldn't trust
Mhm.
Hades anymore, so he turned around. He just wanted to make sure his wife was there, and he saw his wife's soul for 1 second, and then his wife just dispersed into smoke. and he was banned from going to the underworld ever again. And that was the pain of Orpheus, actually. I think on the surface, this is about, okay, healing our past pain, right? But deep down, I really feel it's about us not trusting our subconscious realm. Because the underworld, the deep and dark world down there, is actually our psychology. It's a part of us that we're so afraid to discover, to go into, but we also want to go there, to find the healing there, to find at least the opportunity to heal. But Orpheus, he lost his trust. He kept wanting to confirm, is she there? Am I doing the right thing? Am I not being lied to? All that kind of stuff. So I think for Orpheus' healing message, a big part of this message that I really want to deliver to my audience is that where do we find trust? And this is not about trusting the other person. It's not about trusting the people around it. It's deep down, do you trust yourself? And that's my understanding of this card. This is actually one of my favorite card in this entire deck, and I spent a lot of time writing this chapter. So I love this story so much. Yeah.
I love that, and it's so true, right? And I think one of the things that we are very privileged with when you do this kind of work, the level of self-trust that you have to have is there whether you want it or not. And I try to say this very free of ego, and not to be any way with it, but I think you can tell when a reader is good because they worked out a lot of their own crap. Quite frankly, the greatest healers in the world are the ones who have really been through it themselves. They don't tell you stuff that they read in books. They tell you from experience. And that level of clawing yourself out of the pit, right? Just like the card talks about, is what breeds that sense of self-trust. That can look like so many different things. It can be therapy, it can be shadow work, all of that stuff, right? I can assure you, when you see those readers on YouTube, on Instagram, right, when you see them out there and you think, damn, this person is good, it's because they are speaking from experience. All right, that really is the difference between
between
I'll leave it there.
Let me leave there.
Let's leave it on a high. And the only thing really that I wanted to add to that, because obviously this is, if you're a Libra, this is happening in your sign, so this is a big deal for you. This is putting a full moon spotlight on you. It's an eclipse point. Something about your life is going to change because of this eclipse, and it's highlighting to you where it is that you now need to go. And one thing, because of this Chiron energy that's now, actually, if you're a Libra, this Chiron is in your 7th house. One of the ways that you might sort of experience this is knowing what and who you don't associate with anymore, and realizing, wow, at one point I was totally tied to this person, this thing, this place, this connection, this whatever it is. And if I'm not tied to that, that means I'm not that person anymore. And if I'm not that person, hang on a sec, who am I? Do you know what I mean? Like, this could be not even a crisis of like, who am I? I don't think it will be a crisis at all. I think it's going to be a really deep-seated realization of, this is who I am now. This is, that's that trine to Pluto as well that I was talking about, like who you are for the future. And the final thing that I want to add to this is, one thing that I say to a lot of my clients, once they've done a lot of healing work, if you're healed, be healed. Don't look for more things to heal, right? Because then you're just going to get into this neurotic cycle of, oh, well, there's something else that needs to be fixed. Sometimes you've done the work and that's enough. Your card is the Page of Cups. Yeah, of course it is. Right. So at this point, I think this eclipse is going to show you how to get back to that point of being truly open-hearted with yourself and with others. And I also think that your intuitive and creative faculties are going to open up that much more because of it. Love this for you.
I'll just add one more thing.
Ooh,
because in my Oracle deck, this card for Libra people, Orpheus healing is ruled by the first decan of Cancer, and you literally just put a Page of Cups. So I do feel that probably, if for Libra people you're going through some self-healing, by the time when we reach Cancer time around July-ish, probably you're going to gain a lot. You have already gained a lot of let's say healing and a lot of understanding about your situation.
Yeah, nice, really nice. Okay, Scorpio.
Scorpio. Okay, so Aristotle service. This card, yeah. So Aristotle he was a very interesting god. He was not one of those major, Olympian gods. He was a very service-oriented deity in Greek mythology. A lot of people say that he ruled cheese making and beekeeping. And
Nice.
he traveled around the world. Actually, it's very interesting in a oracle deck called the Mythic Tarot. I think it was written by Liz Green, yeah, and she associated this figure with Knight of Pentacles. It's very interesting, yeah. So I just want to mention that. So when I was writing the book, and I was really feeling that, I liked his energy, because his energy is very much related to Virgo. It's about service, practical service, making cheese, also one of the things that he did as a deity was he traveled around Greece to teach people how to do beekeeping, how to make cheese, how to make, I don't know, grow plants, grow crops, things like that. Yeah. So I usually, when I see this card, I think of a period of time where we need to focus on our daily service and our practical day-to-day operational efforts. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That's really interesting. So for Scorpios, this eclipse is happening in your 12th house, which and the reason I find this so interesting is because sometimes the greatest way to serve spirit is through selfless acts of devotion. And that is one of them, right? Teaching people how to feed themselves or clothe themselves or, whatever the case might be. I love that. That's so beautiful. For this, you have the Two of Swords, right? So for you Scorpio people, this really is about, so obviously Latau's mentioned this part of service. Take the emotion out of it. And I want to say this because the feeling that I get from this Two of Swords is, for some of you, you might be tasked with something as a result of this eclipse or around this eclipse where you think, this is beneath me. Why am I having to do this? It's not that you're being punished. And if you can get out of your feelings for long enough to say, okay, you know what, let me just do this, you're effectively going to be, and it's not about swings and roundabouts or, bank accounts, but you're effectively working off or through some of your personal karmic energy that's going to free up a lot of space for you, because that 12th house is a very karmic space in the chart. And 6th house, 12th house eclipses like Scorpio are having at the moment, they are no joke. I tell you, 6th house, 12th house, 4th house, 10th house, for me, those ones always hit the hardest. So if you are a Scorpio, it's not that you're being relegated in any way, shape, or form. You're being given a chance actually to, I wish I had better language, but you're being given a chance to top up your karmic bank account in a sense, right? With the good stuff.
Yeah. I also think that, because we're having this duality there, the 12th house and the 6th house, right? And so the Two of Swords for me is a bit like the balance there. So have we been stuck in our 12th house too much? I've seen people who are living in their life as if they live in the 12th house, right? They're very detached from their daily service and the practical effort they can make, right? Because sometimes 12th house, traditionally speaking, a lot of astrologers would say this is a house of self undoing in a negative way. Because 12th house is related to Pisces, and sometimes in a negative way, this could be about us running away from reality and getting very stuck with our feelings and emotions. And I've seen people also with their moon in the 12th house. Sometimes it's more complicated for them to process how they feel. So I think this service card, Aristotle, because he's the third decan of Virgo, and we have the full moon in the 12th house, right? So there is a duality there. So I think this is telling also us to balance our 12th house element and the 6th house element.
Yeah, love that. I love that. It's interesting as well because the Two of Swords is a very Libran energy as well. So yeah, there's that balance point for sure. Nice, really nice. Okay, Sagittarius.
Sagittarius. Number 40, Sirens Cleanse. So I'll talk a little bit about sirens. I don't know if our audience would be very familiar with what sirens are. Sirens are basically they were monsters basically, but they're very beautiful. They have a female body, beautiful hair, beautiful face, and they sing beautiful songs. to lure sailors in so that they can cause shipwreck and then eat their flesh, right? And so in two mythological stories, Siren appeared. One was it was in Jason and the Argonauts, the Golden Fleece. And that one, I really liked that one because in the story, you know, all the crew, the entire crew of the Argonauts were you know, they were what's the right word? Allured basically, yeah, and distracted by Siren's voice. But then Orpheus, right? We just mentioned that the musician, he came onto the deck and he started to play his own song, and that his song was even more beautiful than the Sirens. And that's how he saved the entire crew. So Sirens, for me, this card usually is talking about we have to really notice the unnecessary voices around us. Sometimes we could be hearing a lot of different things around us. Some of them can be very distracting. I really think that Orpheus' story in Jason and the Argonauts versus the Sirens, fighting the Sirens, was about instead of listening to the sweet songs out of us, we need to listen to our own inner voice. And I really think Orpheus was that inner voice in us and his music. So I think for this card, this could be saying that for Sagittarius people, perhaps if you are maybe certain things you cannot decide what you're bothered by, and if this is because of other people's opinions, other people's random expectations and advice, maybe this is time for us to find our center voice.
Love. That's so good. That's so good, right? Especially because for Sagittarius, this eclipse for you is happening in your 11th house. Friendships, group association. So this whole idea of herd mentality. Yes, you are a centaur. Yes, you're a horse, and horses run in packs, right? But one of the things that I love about what you mentioned is that 11th house. Yes, it's about your friendships. So if your relationships with your groups, your relationships with your friends, with your wider social circle, don't let that influence who you are or how you're going to behave. This is a time for you to really listen to yourself. And because it's a full moon lunar eclipse, I wouldn't be surprised if there are friendships or connections or ties to friends or groups, associations, etc., that you say, actually, you know what, this is no longer for me.
Yeah.
I need to follow my path, right? Moving
Yeah.
forward. I love that. With this, you've got the 5 of Cups. So I'm just going to be straight up with you. It's not the easiest of cards. And it does suggest that there will be friendships or group ties that come to an end at this time. Mourn them, right? And the reason we feel any sort of sense of mourning or when we feel loss, I got a pang of it right now because of that card. And we hurt and we feel grief and we mourn because the love or the connection was real. That's the price that we pay, right, for love. And so while it is challenging to lose friends or to close certain things down, in order for us to go towards whatever the future is, that trine to Pluto from the eclipse to Pluto in Aquarius, you're going to have to do something different. And that might mean that your future plans require different groups, different associations.
Yeah.
All right. Capricorn.
Capricorn. We just talked about Jason and the Argonauts. Jason.
Yeah.
Jason.
There we go.
Yeah. And the key word is adventure.
Right.
Yeah. So Jason, I mean, I think a lot of people know of Jason. Yeah, I mean, he was in movies and all that, right? I mean, in Hollywood movies. So Jason was basically the young hero who traveled thousands of miles away from his home to fetch the Golden Fleece. And his story was all about adventures, right? He traveled to different islands, killed monsters, and he had a crew, actually. He was a young leader there. Sometimes not only do I see Jason's energy about going on new adventures, but it's also about finding that sort of like young leadership in us. Because one thing that I noticed about Jason and the Argonauts was that during the journey, most of the things were done by his crew, not by him, actually. So he was very much supported, actually, by a lot of people who are older than him, who are more experienced than him, who guided him. Like, for example, one of the guys actually on his crew, his ship was Theseus. And Theseus was already a king at that time. He also had Hercules on the boat. all those heroes were way more experienced and they were very savvy, right, in their knowledge and everything. But Jason was a 16-year-old young guy who was passionate, who wanted to be a hero and all that. So I think this card is telling us to go on that adventure, but also at the same time telling us to notice the people that we need to bring into our journey. Yes.
Love that. It's kind of like a respect your elders, right?
Yeah,
In true
yeah.
in true Capricorn fashion.
Exactly. Capricorn is old people, right? Saturn,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. So for Capricorns, obviously this is happening in your 10th house of your career. It's, your social status, how you show up in the world, and the legacy that you leave behind. Jason left a legacy, right? He
Yep.
absolutely did. We're still talking about it now.
Yep.
And one thing that I've often said is none of us are great by ourselves.
Mm.
It really is the people that we connect with, it's the ties that we have, the community that we build. Just recently I've really come to understand what legacy actually means, and it's really about what we leave behind, right? And how we
Mm.
touch people and all of that good stuff. So if you want to build your career, if you're a Capricorn at the moment, this is a relationship full moon lunar eclipse. This is the time to really ask yourself, do I have the right network? Do I have the right connections? Am I making any connections, or am I
Mm.
just doing that Capricorn thing where I'm trying to do it all by myself,
Yep.
right? Maybe
Yep.
this is the time you need to open that up. Love that. For this, you've got the Ace of Cups. So it bodes very, very well, right? You have
Nice.
the support, you have the love, and also you have the connection and the courage. Not even the courage, you have the conviction of heart
Mm.
to make it work. So lovely stuff coming in for Capricorns and the career.
Looks
All
very
right.
refreshing, yeah. This adventure for
Yeah,
Capricorn, very refreshing. Yeah. Mm. Good. Okay.
absolutely. Absolutely. Aquarius.
Aquarius,
My
your
turn.
turn, your
Woohoo.
turn, Aquarius. Yeah. Wow. This is for you. Chiron knowledge.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm really glad that
Wow.
this is for Aquarius. Yeah. So Chiron, of course, he was a master healer and everything. Yeah. But in this book, I really see him as a teacher. Because Chiron was a teacher for a lot of amazing heroes. Like he was a teacher of Hercules. He was also the teacher of Achilles and all those famous Greek heroes. So for me, Chiron is a symbol of knowledge, and
Mm.
that vast ocean, right? That you can dive into, that you can learn, and you can experience. So this is what I usually see as things related to him: knowledge, guidance, being a teacher. Also sometimes I also see this card as us furthering our own education. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? That message has been coming up a lot for me recently. And I always said, like,
Mm.
I'm not coming back to school.
Yeah.
I'm, digging my heels in, like, I'm not
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah.
But it's been palpable, and it's come from like so many different sources. So I'm kind of like, okay, I'm paying attention now,
Mm.
universe. I hear you.
Mm. Mm.
But yeah, wonderful, because this eclipse for you as as an Aquarius person, it falls in your ninth house, which is education, higher learning,
Yeah.
right? It's also your belief structure. The ninth house also has a lot to do with healing because it's very Jupiterian.
Mm. Mm.
And so when you mentioned this about healing and all of these different arts, I really find that very wonderful.
Mm. Mm.
And because you've got this in the ninth house of teachers, coaches, and gurus, you could end up connecting to or speaking to somebody that really helps you heal something for yourself, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
therefore go on to maybe teach others how to do the same. You've got this with the Three of Cups. So I love this card. Happy times, good times. Ninth
Mm.
house is very lucky. It's very warm, very vibrant.
Yep.
But interestingly enough, when I see this card, I've seen it a lot show up for reunions. So uh, maybe you are forging partnerships, connections, or collaborations with people that you've worked with, studied with, or worked alongside previously. So this could be bringing someone back into the fold or someone back into your life at this point. Either way, I think this eclipse bodes very, very nicely for the air signs and
Yep.
obviously for Aquarius.
Mm.
Okay,
Great. Great. Yeah.
last but never least,
Pisces.
Pisces.
All right. Pisces, our final card. Okay. Number 9, Numa, and the keyword is humor.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I like this card for Pisces that is very tiny, and I'll explain a little bit why. Numa, this figure is not from Greek mythology. He's actually from Roman mythology, and not a lot of people know about this figure. And the story is very simple. Basically, he forgot to make sacrifices for Jupiter, right? The Roman equivalence of Zeus. And so
Wow.
one day Jupiter appeared in the sky and said, well, we have to punish you. You didn't sacrifice, sheep or cows to us, right? You are sacrilegious. So Numa was, having this conversation with Jupiter, and Jupiter said, okay, I'm going to ask you three questions. If you cannot answer in a very satisfactory way, I will punish you. So Jupiter asked him three questions, and every question was answered by Numa in a very funny way that it made Jupiter laugh. Actually, yeah, they might not be the right answers, but they were very humorous, yeah. And so eventually Jupiter said, "Okay, so you're a funny guy. Like, okay, fine. You made my day, so I'll let you go. I'll let this go, right? Whatever." So that's the very simple story about Numa's encounter with Jupiter in the sky, and the keyword is humor. And this card is actually associated. This card is with Gemini, about being
Mm.
witty, being humorous. And so when I wrote the book for this chapter, I really feel that this is telling us that sometimes we might be facing a lot of serious issues and very deep psychological darkness in us. Just like Numa, he was facing Jupiter, who was a mighty god who's saying, I'm gonna punish you, right? But the way he dealt with it was with his own sense of humor. And I think that sometimes we might need to learn how to take life less seriously, just like what Numa did. Once we feel that everything is serious, it's about me, it's about, this and that, and then, we're all becoming very, very burdened. And the lesson from Numa is about finding the humor in our life stories and learn how to take them, see them from a different perspective. Yeah, especially not in a overly serious way. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And it's true, right? As well. I recently learned this on I was watching a lady who she practices Chinese metaphysics, and she's brilliant, and she's actually very funny. And one of the things she said was like, if you're submitting work to, like for an exam or whatever, she said, say something that's really off the cuff or different or funny, because
Mm,
your examiner's going to be like, oh, okay, this is different, right? I've
different.
read
Yeah. Yeah.
50 essays of all the same, and this one actually made me laugh. So you might
Yeah.
get a better grade. And I was like, she knows some
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I love that. And I actually think you're totally right. Funnily enough, for Pisces, and Jupiter's the ruler of Pisces, or the ancient ruler of Pisces, um, the for for Pisces, this is happening in your eighth house. One of the broad sort of blanket terms of the eighth house is debts. And so this, character Numa is indebted to Jupiter,
Mm,
but finds another way out of it that isn't so heavy, that isn't so doom and gloom. And the eighth
mm,
house is known to be, one of the more sort of gnarly ones.
mm,
That jovial energy of Jupiter, right? So finding a way to laugh at it, and because the eighth house can also be death and all of that. So it's not so much that death is funny, but it's that kind of cosmic joke,
joke.
right?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, like one of the things that I've always found, like it's really morbidly funny, but it's still funny. It's like,
Mm,
attack life, because none of us get out alive anyway,
mm,
right? So
yeah. Yeah.
give it everything that you've got, go after it, right? Really get into enjoying it.
Yeah.
Um, what I will say with this eclipse is, and you mentioned the deep psychological self, that's eighth house as well.
Yeah.
And so this idea with this eclipse being in Libra and it's shining a full moon sort of in that space for you, maybe this is breaking away from the heavy, to say, okay, yes, you know what, I've had those experiences, but actually there is joy and pleasure in the world.
Yeah.
And your card is literally the Nine of Cups, right?
Healing. Yeah.
You literally can't make it up. So finding that internal contentment
Yeah.
and understanding that actually, even when we are indebted to people, we owe nothing or no one anything
Mm,
but to live the best life that we possibly can.
mm.
And that's not to say, you know, doing it for the gram or, you know, having your big flashy mansion or, right? It's not all of that.
Yeah.
Living the best life that you possibly can is being the best version of yourself, and that filtering out into the world. So if there are things or people that you feel indebted to, improve yourself, improve your life to the best that it can possibly be, because just by being in your presence and resonating at that frequency, you'll pay off any debt that you feel like you may or may not have.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
All right, Latau, please tell everybody where they can find you, how they can connect with you.
Right.
It's been an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you so, so much. We're going to have to do another one. I'm just
Absolutely.
putting
Yeah.
that out there right now.
Yeah. So again, thank you so much for having me today. I'm having an amazing time here doing this video with you. And I'm also learning so much from you, just like what I did before with you. People can find me through my Instagram again. So my Instagram is LETAO, Latau, WANG. They can also find me through my website, www.thehealingkingdom.com. You can also, if you like this Oracle deck, Oracle of the Mystic Heroes, you can find this on Amazon. If you just search the name, you can find it on many, many different websites. And I'm sure if you're in the US or in UK, you can definitely find this in New Age shops where you usually will see Oracle cards or tarot cards. Yeah.
Awesome. And guys, I'm going to put links in the description box so you can find Latau on his Instagram and all of that good stuff. There's also a link that I will be putting in the description of this video so that you can go straight to the booking or the buy page for the Oracle deck. As I say, I was very lucky to get a deck as a gift, and I love mine and I can't wait to start using it. Latau, as always, man, so, so good to connect with you. I really can't wait to do another one. We're going to have to pick a topic.
Yeah.
And it would be great to have you back. Thank you
Absolutely.
for bringing your knowledge and wisdom and sharing so freely. It was amazing to have you, and we will see you very soon, no doubt.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Bye.